Today we are continuing to explore this over 100-year-old book on Freemasonry called Mystic Masonry, or the Symbols of Freemasonry. And last week we talked a little bit about what this book described as the meaning of the eye in the center of the triangle. And you don't have to have seen that video for this video to make sense. It will help a little bit because there's going to be some crossover in the topic. But you don't have to have seen it to be able to make sense of this one. And today we are talking about how this book says that you can become God. And of course, we're going to be taking a look at what the book says and then examining it through the Hyperion lens. So let's just bring this up and get started right away. And so this is on the nature of man in the secret doctrine. And it's going to get to what we need here pretty fast. So let's just start right away. We speak of life, of will, of desire, and of love as principles manifesting in nature and recognized by results. In themselves, they may have no definite form, yet are they nonetheless potent. These principles may take the form of the body, of man, as water takes the form of the vessel that contains it, which it congeals and retains the form of the vessel. Still, it is true that water as a body has no definite form on its own. So it is with the principles we are considering. They are metaphysical concepts, not tangible things, but they are causes that lead to tangible results. So in essence, they're talking about concepts like life, will, desire, and love. They're principles. They're not physical, tangible things that you can touch, taste, hear, or smell. They are metaphysical principles that take the form, sort of, or the body of a human. Just like if you were to take water and place it in the vessel, it takes the form of the vessel that contains it. And so they're saying the same sort of thing, that life, will, desire, love, these are all different metaphysical principles. They don't have any physical form on their own, but they sort of manifest within the physical form of the human. So it has already been stated that each principle is correlated to a plane, a planet, and a race, and that the human principles are, on every plane, correlated to sevenfold occult forces. It has already been shown how the substances of different planes interpenetrate with the dominant chord, determining the vibration on any plane. Now, I want to make it clear here that, again, this is in terms of Freemasonry. So, as I like to point out, that while Freemasonry has some interesting ideas, you'll notice that it is very mystical. It has to do with intuition. There's a lot of dogma, and there's a lot of just assertions without giving any reasons behind them. So, saying things that like, and I want, life, will, desire, love, these are metaphorical principles, and that each principle is correlated to a plane, a planet, and a race, and that the human principles are correlated to the sevenfold occult forces. Like, you'll notice this is all very vague and very vague, very intuitive, very ill-defined. And, I want to make it clear that this is not a Hyperionism stance. This is from Freemasonry. So I want to talk a little bit about, again, a quick interjection, because I always like to show and highlight the big difference from systems that are like, secret societies and occult and mystical and New Age, versus Hyperionism, which is a system of knowledge. The reason why I always like to emphasize the difference, because some people think that Hyperionism has something to do with these things. No, Hyperionism is not occult, it's not mystical, it's not esoteric, it's not secret society, it's not anything like that. It's a system of knowledge, and it's based on logic and reason. And I like to show the difference, and also how Hyperionism is much more clear and precise and has sufficient reasons for all these different things. So for example, in here, when you talk about these metaphysical principles of life, will, and desire, and them not being tangible, but them sort of becoming manifest in humanity. So in Hyperionism, you have the frequency domain, and then you have the space-time domain. So remember, in Hyperionism, everything is mathematical. This is a mathematical reality. This is a reality of living mathematical pattern. And the reason why this is because this is a reality what I mean to say is, this is a reality of frequency, of energy. And frequency, energy are just mathematical concepts. Now, this is living mathematics in motion, but when you're talking about something like frequency, this is a purely mathematical concept. Frequency is related to sinusoidal waves. Sinusoidal waves are just, it's trigonometry, but more specifically in Hyperionism, we use Euler's formula. But I don't want to get into all that. But basically, what I want to get across here is that when you're talking about these very intangible subjects, see, we in Hyperionism, this is the frequency domain, and it's a domain of mind. And the reason why it's not a physical domain is because it is defined in terms of frequency rather than space-time. Now, what you can do, though, is take these frequencies and represent them as space-time information. So it's an entirely mathematical process. It's not this sort of vague thing of, like there's this principle of love, will, and desire, and life, and they somehow manifest in the physical, are correlated to the sevenfold occult forces or anything like that. It has nothing. You see that it's very mystical and vague. Whereas in Hyperionism, it's about, you have these mathematical frequencies. These mathematical frequencies are formally sinusoids. Every sinusoid carries with it a content or an experience. Just like you can have a light wave at a certain frequency, and you experience that light wave at a certain frequency as, that electromagnetic wave as a color. You experience it as red or green or blue. And whether you experience it as red or green or blue will depend on the frequency of that wave, as well as your sensory apparatus as well. So you see there's a formal content to something, the actual mathematical structure of it, and then the experience of that as content. There's the formal aspect and the experiential aspect. And so you have the fundamental laws of existence, the fundamental mathematical nature of existence does become embodied in humanity, but not in any of this mystical sevenfold occult forces way, but via just mathematical properties, in that you can have space-time functions and you can have frequency functions. You are an eternal mathematical mind, and a body is a space-time function. It's a vehicle, and you as a mathematical mind can link to this body and use it as a way to experience the space-time world. Just like when you put on a VR headset, right? When you put on a VR headset, you're being fed all the information to the VR world. So it feels like you're in that VR environment. You are an eternal monadic mind, a being of frequency, a mental being, not a physical being. But when you receive the information given by a body, you're experiencing the sensory data given by that body, just like when you put on a VR headset. And it seems like you're in that world, but you're not really in the virtual world. It just seems like it because of the information you're being fed. Same thing, like we're all eternal minds that link to avatars, and it seems like we are in this physical world. So in that case, this is how one would say that these metaphysical principles or mental principles are manifest in humanity. You get where I'm going with this. So anyway, and then the reason why I want to emphasize this is because when you start saying things like, and each one of these principles is correlated to a plane, a planet, and a race, like there's no rational basis for this. This is just pure intuitive explanation. It's not like, and you can see where this stuff can get kind of dangerous too when you start talking in terms of, like, say, gender or race or something like that. You can get into real dangerous territory. That's why, Hyperionism is not a mystical system. We're a system of logic and reason and all that sort of thing. And you don't mathematical sinusoids frequencies are mathematical sinusoids and frequencies. They are not associated with a particular gender or race or planet or anything of that nature. So, and the thing is, if you're going to say that they are, you have to give a reason as to why, and if you're not, you're just making a dogmatic claim. But that is what occurs here, because it's not a knowledge system of logic and reason. It's a mystical system. And anytime you encounter a mystical system, you're going to have these things. All these mystical systems work in this sort of the same way. You go to a New Age, to learn about New Age class or something, they're just going to be telling you different assertions without any reasons to back it up. Like, oh yes, you have to access the fifth quantum dimensional plane to, speak with the ascended master that will give you the ability to, it's just, there's a lot of things that they get right, such as, reality not being physical and, different things like that. But it goes off the crazy trains real fast when you don't have logic and reason to be able to guide one. But let's continue here. And I just always want to point that out, though. So it's already been shown how the substances of different planes interpenetrate with the dominant chord, determining the vibration on any plane. As to the general method of evolution in man, or the relation of anthropogenesis to cosmogenesis, it may here be noted that in the various processes of cooling and hardening by which the Earth has reached its present state from the fire mist or nebulous mass recognized by modern science, long ages are consumed and various definite stages are reached. The secret doctrine teaches that man, like the Earth, existed potentially in the fire mist, and that he has evolved downward into matter, pari passu, with the Earth he inhabits, and which he is an integral part. So, interesting things. Again, you can see very, very, very much mystical language. But let's continue here to get to the part where we start talking about becoming God. So each human being is therefore a miniature Earth, microcosm, evolving within the greater Earth, which is the macrocosm. This is one of the meanings of Ezekiel's wheels within wheels. In a metaphysical sense, every so-called atom of matter is composed in the same way and is going through a similar process. It may thus be seen that the key to the whole process of evolution is analogy. It must naturally result from such a process from man's intimate relation to every principle, process, and plane that epitomizes the whole, and that through the expansion of consciousness and differentiation throughout his long experience, when the consummation of evolution is reached, man will be at one with the all, knowing and being will be one in him. Hence, he will be a god in the Platonic sense. This is precisely the view set forth by Herbert Spencer as the consummation of human knowledge, where absolute power and supreme knowledge result. Place over against this view of the infinite possibilities, the transcendent destiny of man, those of any of the exoteric religions or the materialist science, and the old wisdom religion stands alone as the divinest revelation ever made to humanity. So this is really important here, and let's go over this. And I always say this, remember, I am not a fan of the gender bias. There's a lot of, Freemasonry is filled with sort of patriarchal wording, man, brotherhood, the brotherhood of man, all this sort of thing. Not a fan of that. Just want to put that out there, in case this is the first video someone's seeing of my channel. Want to make sure that is clear. But this is important. So let's take a look at what this saying is again and break it down. So each human being is therefore a miniature Earth, microcosm evolving within the greater Earth, the macrocosm. So I'm going to go over this, then I'm going to come back to different parts. Okay, so this is basically the concepts of the microcosm and the macrocosm. The principle of as above, so below. This is one of the meaning of the Ezekiel's wheels within wheels. This is a biblical reference, a vision of Ezekiel's. In a metaphysical sense, every so-called atom of matter is composed in the same way and is going through a similar process. So again, they're basically saying that there's an as above, so below principle going on. And I'll explain even what that means better. I just want to do a brief overview. It may thus be seen that the key to the whole process of evolution is analogy. It must naturally result from such a process, and from man's intimate relation to every principle, process, and plane that he epitomizes the whole. And that through the expansion, so essentially what this means is that through every process, through every relation, principle and process, through all of this, the whole, the all that there is, the universe and all things, is reflected in the individual, in that there is a reflection of that in every individual. And through the expansion of consciousness, gaining higher degrees of knowledge and understanding and differentiation through his long experience, when the consummation of evolution is reached, when we are going through this process of evolution, reach the pinnacle of evolution, the very goal of evolution, man will be at one with the all. Man and the all, or humanity. I hate saying the man, humanity will be at one with the all. They will be equivalent. Knowing and being will be one in him. That's another important thing we'll be breaking down. Hence, he will be a god in the Platonic sense. This is precisely the view set forth by Herbert Spencer as the consummation, the pinnacle of human evolution, where absolute power and supreme knowledge result. And place over against this view, so, compare this, what we're saying right now, of the infinite possibilities and the transcendent destiny of man, basically against those of any of the religions or the materialist science today. And they say in the old wisdom religion stands alone as the divinest revelation ever made to humanity, this being that humanity can become God. So let's now, so this is the position of Freemasonry. This is the Masonic position, at least according to this book, about humanity being a microcosm of the macrocosm, and through evolution and attaining knowledge will become one with the all and have supreme power and supreme knowledge, and that this comes from the old wisdom religion, and that it is superior to all religions today and superior to the materialist sciences today. So this is the Freemasonic position. And we're going to get more, though. There's more to it than this. But now, I want to break this down in terms of Hyperionism and show you how we can understand this a lot better. So when you say each human being is therefore a miniature Earth, microcosm evolving within the greater Earth, a macrocosm. This is a very, and then they go on to say, in a metaphysical sense, every so-called atom of matter is composed in the same way and is going through a similar process. So what's going on here? What's being said here? Again, this is very sort of vague and mystical language, a lot of just, a lot of claims. What this whole microcosm and macrocosm thing means is that every single one of us is a mirror of the universe. Because, and again, what I'm talking about right now is Hyperionism. We just looked at what Freemasonry says. Now I'm going to talk about Hyperionism so you can see the difference. So, in Hyperionism, we are all eternal monadic minds, and we are the all. We are all that is. And each one of us is sort of like, you could say, a fractal of existence. And that's what it kind of means, in a certain sense, when you see that everything reflects everything else, that has to do with sort of the fractal nature of existence. To be more precise, it is more like a hologram, where the whole is contained in every part. If you take a hologram, and you shine a light through the hologram and it makes the picture, if you were to cut that hologram in half, you would still get two full pictures from those two halves of the hologram. And if you cut it into quarters, each quarter would still contain the whole, all the information. So the information of the all is contained in every part. So each one of us is sort of a reflection of the entirety of the universe. And the reason why that is because, and check out my other videos because I don't have time to get into all the details with this here, but every single one of us is a complete and consistent set of mathematical information. Each and every one of us contains all that there is in separate units. So we form a network. Each and every one of us forms a network, and we are all nodes within this network. And from the interactions of our frequencies, we form this collective dream world that we all inhabit together. So basically what this means is that this is a mathematical reality, and we are all that there is. We are all that there is. Everything around us, everything that we see, touch, taste, smell, and sense is a manifestation of us. We have generated this. Just like when you go to sleep and dream, you generated that dream world. This world that we exist in right now, this is the world that we have collectively generated. Now, we have collectively generated this world, and it reflects this, as above, so below principle. That doesn't mean that everything behaves exactly like everything else. So some people say, well, if you look at, the nature of an atom, and then you look at the solar system, it's like as above, so below. They behave the same way. Well, they don't really behave in exactly the same way. I mean, there's some similarities, but it's not, that's not exactly what's being said here. What it means is that, and that's why the whole thing about them saying that each human is a miniature Earth within the greater Earth, that's kind of a really weird way to put it. Basically, what happens is that every single one of us contains the same infinite information, and we all operate on the same principles. And reality, all reality, operates on the same principles that we operate on, because ultimately we are all reality, just experiencing a certain slice and a certain piece of it. And so, let me, and this is important for continuing here. It must naturally result from a process. Yeah, man's intimate relation to every principle, process, and plane, that he epitomizes the whole. So we epitomize the whole in that we are sort of like, I gave that example of the hologram before. You have that holographic sheet. Well, each, if you were to chop it up into little pieces, each piece contains the information of the whole. Each and every one of us contain the information in the whole within ourselves. And this is why, there's that saying, know thyself. And a fuller version of that is know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. That's why everyone who's looking for this external information, or, information externally, is looking in the wrong place. You're not going to find the secrets of existence by looking out here, looking over there, reading this book, or whatever. They can be tools to point you in the right direction, but ultimately the answers are within. And this isn't some bullshit like, so you should go out and meditate every day. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that you have the power, you are a reflection of the universe, and you have this information within you. And what that means is the more that you understand how you work, the more you will understand how the universe works. And the more you understand how the universe works, the more you will understand how you work. And a big point I always want to drive home is that the main thing about Hyperionism is giving you the tools so that you can make these discoveries yourself. We talk a lot about things in Hyperion. I make a lot of statements in Hyperionism. I tell you, I say, well, we're all infinite minds, and we're all monadic minds, and we're beings of frequency and such. But I don't want you to believe me just because I'm telling you that. We're all about showing you how to use logic and reason so that you can come to these conclusions yourself and verify this information for yourself, and come and see why we say the things we do. That's the big difference. Why we're not a mystical system, why we're not a religious system, and why we are a system of knowledge. Because I don't want you to believe what I say or what any Hyperion says just because we're saying it or it sounds good. I want you to understand it and know it because you are actually understanding the reasons behind why it is true, because that is when you actually start to reach a new level of awareness, a new level of consciousness. When you really truly understand it and it clicks, because it's not just a collection of facts or data. I could tell you a bunch of bullshit, and who knows, it could be like, oh yeah, we're all living on an alien hard drive somewhere, and no, it's about understanding the reasons behind all the things that we say so that you can come to this understanding yourself and know why these things are true. But this has to, okay, but let's talk about why and how you can become God. So, in relation to every principle, and so yes, this is true. We have the intimate relation to every principle process and all this, because we do epitomize the whole. And to get into, I highly recommend, if any of this, watch the other videos in this playlist as well. I have a whole playlist on this particular, I have a lot of videos, but there's a playlist on this. I don't have time in every video to re-explain certain things. So go back and watch some stuff if certain things sound fuzzy. But ultimately, every single one of us is a full and complete system of mathematics that perfectly balances to zero. And this is because every value, when it's perfectly paired with its opposite, and it's equivalent to zero. A full and complete mathematical system equals zero because every positive is balanced out by its negative. So we all reflect each other in that we have the same contents, but those contents can be arranged in different ways, but ultimately we are all the same. You know what's kind of a good way to understand it is through this Rubik's Cube. Say each and every single one of us is a Rubik's Cube. Well, we all contain the same information, but that information can be arranged in different ways. Now imagine all reality. What all reality is, it's just a product of us. So imagine all reality as being a giant Rubik's Cube composed of mini Rubik's Cubes. So do you kind of see that idea, that holographic principle, or the sort kind of like that fractal-esque principle where every single one of us contains the same principles and the universe itself contains the same principles, even though we can be unique. The universe, all reality, has a unique pattern, but it reflects the same underlying principles and data. Every single one of us has a unique pattern. We can all rearrange our pattern, have a unique pattern, but we reflect the same basic principle. We are all these systems of information that contain the same information that can be arranged in different ways. But this is why we are all reflections of each other and reflections of the universe. And of course, there's much more. I'm using analogies. I'm using metaphors here. If you want to check out, our other work for full mathematical descriptions of this. Throughout his long experience, when the consummation of evolution is reached, man will be at one with the all. Knowing and being will be one in him. Hence, he will be a god in the Platonic sense. Okay, so let's break this down in terms of Hyperionism. When the consummation of evolution is reached, man will be at one with the all. Well, what does this mean? Here's what's going on. What we essentially did, we began this reality as a perfect unity, and we essentially shattered ourselves. And when I say shattered ourselves, like with the Rubik's Cube metaphor, imagine that all the Rubik's Cubes were solved. Every single one were exactly solved. And even the Rubik's Cube of Rubik's Cubes was solved. Now, do you see, in that state, everything is identical. When they're mixed up, yeah, they still reflect the same principles, but there is difference. If they are all solved completely and in the exact same way, and the entirety reflects that solved state, there is this single unity where we exist in identity. And this is us, you could say, as God. I don't like using religious language. I like referring to this as the absolute. But yes, you could call this God if you would like. This is us as God. This is us as a perfect unity and in a perfect identity. So what happens? When we, quote unquote, shatter each other, or shatter ourselves, mathematically speaking, these are sinusoidal waves going from symmetry to asymmetry. And more specifically, it's when you introduce phase information. But if we want to be metaphorical, that's when these Rubik's Cubes no longer are solved, but mix each other, become mixed. So imagine all the Rubik's Cubes become mixed. No longer there's an identity. Difference is introduced. When difference is introduced, that's when you get the domain of matter. That's when you get the domain of space-time. Because when there is no difference at all, when there is no difference, you don't have the domain of space-time. It's a domain of perfect mind. You can't have space-time when there is no difference, because this is a world of difference. Look around you. Everything is defined in terms of difference. I am standing over here and Joe is standing over there. I am wearing a black shirt, which is not a white shirt. This cup is over there and not over here. This is, green and not blue. This is bright and not dark. This is it's now and not later. It's up and not down. It's hot and not cold. Everything is in terms of difference. So when all difference is resolved and we are in perfect identity, we exist as a unified perfect mind. Space and time do not exist because there is no difference. You can't have space and time without difference. But when you introduce phase relations, asymmetry, or break the identity by introducing difference, now you can have space-time because now difference has been introduced. And this is the Big Bang when that symmetry shattering happens. So essentially, this is what happens. We, as God, the absolute one, shatter, generate this domain of space-time. And in doing so, we essentially throw ourselves into forgetfulness. And the reason why we do this, it's a very long, complicated answer, but the basic reason is you can understand this intuitively by think about what it would feel like to be the only being in existence forever. That would be hell. You wouldn't want to do that. You would want to, what would you do? Think about what you would do in that situation. And think of, you can't destroy yourself, you're eternal. What would you do? And if you play out this thought experiment and really think about it, well, you'll come to the conclusion that you really can only come to. You would throw yourself into forgetfulness and generate this domain of, generate a domain where you could then enter into and forget what you are. And that's exactly what we did. So we enter this domain, in terms of avatars, in terms of bodies. Physical evolution is happening because this is a process of mental, mathematical evolution. So as reality evolves, we, are able to interact in the domain of space-time through these bodies, and evolution is occurring. Physical evolution occurs to the point to get us to these, to be able to have avatars, to be able to have the capacity for evolving in consciousness. And then it really turns more towards mental evolution. We're really done with physical evolution in terms of biological, sort of what one might call natural or unguided or unconscious evolution. We can also turn to technology to augment ourselves evolutionarily, and we have done so already. We've been doing this. Humanity just doesn't realize this. Even things like smartphones are augmentations to us in our evolutions. They are like a new organs that give us a new sense. We are able to be connected throughout all humanity. We can instantly record data and see what others are seeing through these technologies that we develop. So technology is very much evolution continued in a guided fashion. Now, we're also evolving mentally. And it says, when the consummation of evolution is reached, man will be at one with the all, knowing and being will be one in him. And what this means is when the consummation of evolution is reached, we realize what we are and we return to that state of perfect unity and perfect identity. Eventually, there's a long process to go through, because basically every single mind in the universe must become fully actualized, fully conscious, perfectly synchronized together, working in total harmony. It's a very, very long process. We are just now getting started. By realizing what we are. By realizing what we are, it's kind of like, well, now we can finally start to play this game and start to have fun instead of just killing each other, like the barbarian humans, the state of humanity that we have today. So that's what this means by the consummation, or in Hyperionism, this is what it means by the consummation of evolution is reached. Man will be at one with the all, knowing, and so we realize what we are, and so. That's why it's about knowing yourself. The information is all in you. It's in your mind. And I always want to, because I always feel like people are going to think, oh, well, that means I should just go and sit under a tree and feel nature around me, or I don't know, something like that. No, it's not about that. It's about that can be great and that can be wonderful. I'm not saying that that's it's just humans are fucking lazy. And they like to take the easy way out. So if they go like, oh yeah, the answer's in me, all I have to do is sit there with my eyes shut, they're going to do that rather than actually doing hard inner work. So what I mean by the answer is in you is that you have to do a lot of uncovering your unconscious mind and bringing it into consciousness, understanding how you work, understanding how the mind works, understanding how existence works. And the thing is, when I mean by the answer is in you, is that you can understand how existence works by using mind. What I mean is you don't have to go out there and do a ton of scientific experiments or whatever, because the answer isn't in, like, CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. Doesn't matter how many particles you smash together. Doesn't matter how, small you penetrate into the quantum nature of existence. You're never going to get to the true nature of existence because you're looking externally. The true nature of existence can be worked out mentally. You can understand what you are, where you are, and why you are here. Never believe the lie that truth is inaccessible. A lot of people, whether they're nihilists or absurdists or whatever, say that truth is impossible. Truth is not impossible. Throw that limitation out of your mind, because if you believe that truth is impossible, you'll never look for it, and therefore you will never find it. Not only is truth possible, it's actually kind of obvious when you understand it. It's the only way that reality can be. This is it. This is the only way that existence can possibly be. And you can know, and when we all come to this realization of where we are and why we are here, we can finally start having a fun, thriving, enjoyable existence. Because we'll be at that perfect point where there's still difference. We're still experiencing each other in multiplicity, but we know that we're ultimately a unity. So in that sense, we can have sort of the best of both worlds, where we're still having the joy of experiencing each other in multiplicity. I get to learn about you, you get to learn about me, we all get to explore. That's why I think, racism, sexism, discrimination, it's all so fucking stupid when people hate each other because they're different. Oh, you should be excited about that. When I meet someone that's different than me, like a different culture or someone who might express themselves differently, different race, or whatever it is, I'm always like, oh, this is cool. I want to know, I want to know about your culture. I want to know how, what you think about. I want to know, all this different stuff. That's exciting to me. What a boring fucking world it would be if we were all exactly the same. It would be, living in a world of clones would be quite boring. So anyway, what I mean is that if we exist in that state of knowing that we are a unity, yet still being a multiplicity, it's the best of both worlds, because we have that joy of being able to discover each other and interact with each other, but we don't have all that illusion that we know underneath it all that we are all a unity. So all that hatred, all that sexism, all that violence, all that stuff dissipates, because we know underneath it all, when we're getting to know each other, we're getting to know ourselves, because we are that unity underneath. So we're getting to know ourselves, because we are all nodes within a network that can ultimately become an identity. And we were that identity that particularized itself for the purpose of ultimately experiencing itself as a multiplicity. So it's up to us. We're at that point. We're at that critical juncture where humanity must realize this, so we can move from the phase of survival to a planetary civilization. We are one unified world, and then we can ultimately achieve planetary independence and not even depend on the physical anymore. But this is the point, is that we have to wake humanity up. That's why it's about getting humanity to that next phase of existence where we know what we are, where we are, and why we are here, and we can start having that beautiful, thriving life. And this is why Hyperionism supports a teleocracy, which I'll be going into detail in my upcoming book, which is all about a purposeful society for building a beautiful, unified world, creating a higher quality of life for every individual. This is, telos means purpose. It's a purposeful world. And instead of this, life is tough. Life is difficult. It doesn't need to be. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be struggles, but we can enjoy it. Just like when we play a video game, there's challenges and there's struggles, but we have fun. We play the game, and the challenges and the struggles make it all the more fun. We can have a life like that. We should have a life like that. Not a life where we are struggling, tooth and nail just to survive. You can't go outside 5 feet without someone yelling some, fucking discriminatory or racial or slur or sexist comment or some, it makes me sick. Absolutely disgusted how people act. We live in a world with animals. It's barbaric, but we need to get to that point. So, I get on these tangents. Let's continue here. So knowing and being will be one in him. So, and this is the interesting aspect here. So let me talk, this is an important line, and let me explain to you what this means in terms of Hyperionism. Knowing and being is one, which basically means the epistemology and ontology are actually the same. So in philosophy, ontology is a branch of philosophy, and epistemology is a branch of philosophy. Ontology has to do with the nature of being, what there is. In a nutshell, it's like, what is everything? What is it? Epistemology has to do with knowledge. How can we know things? How is it possible to have knowledge? So you see there's two different branches of philosophy, ontology and epistemology. One deals with being, what things are fundamentally, and one deals with knowledge, how one can come to know something. And ultimately, epistemology and ontology are the same, because this is a reality of living reason, mathematical frequency. And what this means is that reality is mind. So reason and watch my, what's the video that I call? Watch a video that I posted recently called "The Biggest Question of Philosophy Answered" or something like that. The biggest question of, what's it called? Let me look it up real quick. Let me see what it's called, because this is really important, and I don't have time to explain it completely right now. But please go watch this video because it's very important. It's called "The Answer to the Greatest Philosophical Question of All Time." That's what it's called. It's on my channel. Watch that video. So this is really important if you're interested in what I'm about to talk about. So epistemology and ontology are the same in that, hold on, I'm just bringing back up the book so I don't lose my place here. In that reality is living reason. And this is something that the philosopher Hegel understood. The real is rational and the rational is real. And what I mean by reality is reason is that so ultimately, what is reality? Reality is frequency. What is frequency? Frequency is mathematics. What is mathematics? It's a system of reason. So when you talk about frequency, when you talk about mathematics, when you talk about reason, you're talking about the same thing. They're just different ways of looking at it, different viewpoints, but they're the same thing. Frequency is math, and math is a system of reason. Reality is frequency, reality is mathematical, reality is reason. Now, of course, they are living versions of these things, not just like some dead inert concept, but the living version. So epistemology and ontology, or knowing and being, are the same because reality is reason, and reason is also how we come to knowledge. We know what is true through reason, and what is true is reason. Basically meaning, if you want to put it in sort of a more intuitive way, we are mathematical beings that come to self-knowledge of our mathematical selves, and we come to this knowledge through reason. We are math understanding math. And please don't let that, I know that might sound very dry and mechanical. It's not, because we're living frequency. We are the very pulse and essence of life. Every sinusoidal wave is paired with a beautiful experiential content. I mean, it depends what you mean by beautiful, but a content pulsing with life, every single one. But the reason why epistemology and ontology are ultimately the same, or that knowing and being are one, is because reason is what existence is, because it's mathematical, and we come to understand reality through reason, through thought. Another way to know this is that Reality is mental. Reality is mind. And we come to understand what is reality through our own minds, through thinking about it. And this is why when we come to understand what reality is, we have to do it through mind. We have to do it through reason. When it comes to understanding the formal truths of reality, this is because we don't want there to be any mediation. If there's a mediation, you're going to lose information. The thing that you are trying to get to has to be gotten to by the thing itself, not something else. What I mean by that is you can't get to the essence of reality through, let's say, scientific experiment. Because now you're using matter to try and get to mind. You're using something that isn't to try and get to something else. So do you see how you're going? It's going to be a misinterpretation. It's going to be a translation. It's going to be it's sort of like if you're talking in a certain language and you translate it to another language, and some languages just don't have words for a certain thing. These things are lost in translation. You have to understand the thing through itself. So there's no mediation there. Let's continue. I'm getting way off track. So I'm going to try and go faster here. Hence he will be, because I want to get to a certain point. So let me just kind of run through this here. Hence he will be God in the Platonic sense. This is precisely the view set forth by Herbert Spencer, the consummation of human evolution, where absolute power and supreme knowledge result. I explained this. So place over against this view, and basically it's saying this is superior to all religions and all materialist science out there. Yes, absolutely true. What I don't agree with is that they say this old wisdom religion stands alone as the divine revelation ever made to humanity. In Hyperionism, we aren't about like looking at old, trying to find the answer in the old secret wisdom religion or whatnot. We're very future oriented. We're talking about using cutting edge philosophy, cutting edge mathematics, etc. We can learn some interesting information by looking at some old books or things like that. Like we can learn stuff from it, but ultimately it's not like, oh wow, we found the uber secret book that tells us no. It's about being forward thinking and using, always evolving, always transforming, always, if we find a new way to do something, we want to use the best way. If we find a new mathematical way of doing things that's superior or whatever, we always want to be forward thinking. Not if you look at all this new age stuff and esoteric stuff and mystical stuff, they have a huge obsession with the past. We want to go back to how things were before, or it's the old religions that had it right, or we need to go before. Hyperionism is not about that at all. We're about going further, above, beyond, transcending. We are gods. We are the gods of this world. We transform this world. We're the creators. We're the transformers. We're not going back. We're not afraid. We're not disconnecting. We're not disengaging. There's nothing wrong, again, with reading old books or anything. There's some cool info in there. But ultimately, it's about going forward, transforming, being very forward thinking, not. Anyway, let's continue. During the life of man in the animal body on the physical plane, he is composed of the 7 principles. There are Atma, Buddhi, Manas, Kama, astral body, life principle, and physical body. The order in which they are here named is from highest to lowest, or from spirit to matter. So yeah, this is more mystical stuff. There's really no, nothing that I would agree with here, not in a truth form anyway. So the first 3, namely Atma, Buddhi, Manas, are symbolized by a triangle. This is the oldest trinity known to man and is the origin of all the trinities in the exoteric religions of the world. As already shown, the ineffable name written in the triangle refers to the one universal principle antedating creation and lying back of all evolution. Christos is called the Word, but is not Ein Sof. Atma is man, represents Ein Sof in cosmos, hence is called the spark of divinity. They are one in essence. Watch my previous playlist. I talked a little bit about Ein Sof and zero and how we can understand that in different ways. So Atma, Manas, and Buddhi represent Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. When Christ ascended to the Father, he raised his consciousness to the 7th of the atmic plane and became, in fact, no longer in essence only one with God. So you can see here what they're talking about. And see, like in Hyperionism, we don't talk about atmic planes or anything like that. But essentially what's getting down here is saying when Christ ascended to the Father, he raised his consciousness high and became one with God. So they're using the story of Christ to talk about raising your level of consciousness to where you have knowledge of existence. That's what's being discussed here, but in very mystical terms. These three principles in man compose the spiritual soul, the immortal part of man, while Atma Buddhi constitutes the higher self, the latent or potential God in man, the lower frequency body, life principle, form body, and kama or desire are symbolized by a square. To make it plain, let us say that the triangle incarnates in the square. That is the soul. The spiritual descends into matter. It has already been shown in a previous chapter what is the orderly principle of the seven principles. The body is the vehicle of life. Life is the vehicle of the astral body, and the astral body is the vehicle of kama. Kama is the vehicle of manas. Manas is the vehicle of buddhi, and buddhi is the vehicle of atma. This is the orderly relation or sequence of the principles, but as already shown, man is not a mere aggregation of principles any more than he is a conglomerate aggregation of atoms, molecules, or cells. So I think you can see again, you can see the very, very strong mystical vibes here, talking about, it's all very, very vague, very intuitive, very, the square and the triangle and the kama and the buddhi and the manas and all that. So, in Hyperionism, we don't use any of this stuff. We talk about in terms of very precise mathematical ontology, Fourier transforms, how we can understand reality through, logic and reason. And let's just continue because there's a lot more to get to. So just as atoms form molecules, molecules cells, cells tissues, tissues organs, and organs the whole body, so the principles, while preserving a similarly orderly sequence in relation to each other, are at the same time organized in relation to the whole. That is very true. Because ultimately, matter is just reflective of mind. So mind, the essence of reality, forms an orderly structure. It's because it's mathematics. Mathematics is order itself. You can't have order without math. Math is order. It is the archetypal principle of all order. And so reality reflects an orderly nature because it's ultimately a mathematical reality. Space-time is a Fourier projection, space-time projection of the frequency domain. So yeah, you have atoms and molecules forming these structures because underneath it all, it's mathematics. Everything is mathematics. Everything you do is mathematics. I use the example of baking a cake all the time. You have to get a certain number of ingredients, mix them in a certain ratio, one to the other, put them in the oven for a certain amount of time, which is a number, a certain heat, which is a number. All these things, if you were to vary any of the mathematical parameters at all, if you put in a different ratio, if you put in a different ratio of eggs to flour, or a different time in the oven, or a different heat, a different temperature, you'd get something different. Everything, and this is a sort of silly example, but it's to show that everything is reflective of mathematical pattern. Everything. So physiology has determined that certain functions are performed by certain organs and that certain tracts are sensory and others motor. That there are coordinating centers of motion or of sensation like the cerebellum, the medulla, or the sensory ganglia, and has assigned through thought, memory, reason, and volition to the cerebrum. But neither physiology nor modern science has been able to arrive at the slightest conception as to what mind or soul really are beyond functions of organs or result of organization. Yeah, this is completely true. So let's get the word soul out of there for a minute, because that's it has a lot of religious connotation to it. But when it comes to mind, neither physiology nor modern science has been able to arrive at the slightest conception as to what mind really is. And this is absolutely 100% true. Some people are shocked to find this out. Surprisingly, Even a lot of people who are involved in the sciences don't really know this. And that's kind of funny to me. But this is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Scientific materialism, as it is today, has absolutely zero way of explaining how mind can exist. And when I say mind, I mean the fact that you are having a subjective sentient experience right now. They cannot explain how that is possible. They can say that the brain somehow generates it, but do you see the gap remains there? They say the brain causes the mind, but they cannot say how. They have no idea how. They just state it as being such. They say that the brain generates the mind. Well, that's all well and good, but you can say God created the earth too. You have to go, well, how? How? You can say the brain generates the mind, but you have to be able to say how. Science cannot. It has no way of explaining how a material, physical thing that is based on external properties can give rise to you as a sentient, feeling, thinking being with hopes and dreams and all that you have. Your subjective internal experience. They cannot do it. And the reason why they can't do it is because it's a logical impossibility. Because in scientific materialism, what is matter? Well, they can't define matter. Ever since quantum mechanics, the early 1900s, due to the advent of quantum mechanics, they have no idea what matter is. No idea. They can't. They don't. But usually it is at least said that matter exists independently of mind. That's the basic premise of materialism, that matter exists independently of mind. So you cannot have a mind-independent substance, matter, give rise to mind. That is a logical impossibility. That cannot occur. There's no way for it to occur. It's flat out a logical impossibility. It's like saying 2 + 2 = 65. It's not probably wrong, or it's not like, well, we just have to do some experiments to make sure. No. It's literally a logical impossibility. So yes, and really, take that to heart, is that the scientists today have become the popes and the priests of of the past, and that people just listen to them and take what they say as dogma. Now, listen, I'm not saying that they haven't brought tremendous practical advances to things like technology and medicine. So I'm not saying, don't take your medicine or something like that. Please do. Please take your medicine. Please talk to your doctor, and take your doctor's advice. Science is great at creating practical advancements in the physical world, but it can say nothing about what existence really is. Nothing. Zero. Zip. Zilch. And what's really funny about this is that they try to all the time, but they're going outside the bounds of their own system, because most scientific materialists deny philosophy. Well, philosophy / metaphysics is about claiming what reality is. If you make a claim about reality, if you say reality is material, that's a metaphysical claim. Metaphysics deals with what existence is. So if you say reality is material, that's a metaphysical claim. That's not a scientific claim. It's a metaphysical claim. But scientists are not, well versed in philosophy, and so they make all these metaphysical claims all the time while denying metaphysics, and you just have this complete hodgepodge of insanity. So scientific materialism is just as crazy as, let's say, the Bible when it comes to explaining what reality truly is. Now, it's much superior to, bringing practical advancements to the world, creating, better harmony than religion did, things like that. But when it comes to actually explaining existence, it's not even within its bounds to do so while it denies metaphysics. So in that case, I just want to impress upon you the very, very important fact that science, materialism, cannot explain, and this is not just my opinion or the opinion of some ideas. No, it's if you go look up the hard problem of consciousness. It is universally accepted by those who understand, scientific philosophy, that science can't explain mind in terms of materialism. They can't. They have no idea how. So really understand that the thing that you are most intimately familiar with, the only thing that you are only familiar with, which is your subjective experience, everything is filtered through your subjective experience. Everything that you've ever done is through your subjectivity. You've never done anything outside of your subjectivity. Your subjectivity is the only thing that you are familiar with. It's your entire world. Science can't explain it. They can explain nothing when it comes to what things truly are. So, anyway, now they get to a little bit, this is kind of weird. So empirical facts in hypnotism show processes actually taking place that cannot be classified under any known physiological law. The point and this is kind of funny because this book was written in the 1897, so they get a little weird, like hypnotism was really in and a lot of paranormal stuff, so that was really in vogue at the time. So some of the stuff they say about that's kind of funny. But anyway, the point at which the triangle touches the square, that is where the spiritual soul forms its connecting link with the physical body, is through mind. So yeah, you have, in Masonry, you have the triangle and the square, where the square essentially represents like the physical. Kama, the fourth principle, appetite, desire, passion, etc., is not found in the upper triangle, but is the first in the square. And Kama has been called the vehicle of Manas. We have thus, resulting from this association, Kama Manas, and the central organ of this conjoined or dual principle is the human brain. Here is the union of thought and sensation, or knowing and feeling, the union of the desire to know with the desire to feel. Here is furthermore the origin, seat, and nature of self-consciousness in man. On the upper side of the point of union we have the will, on the lower side desire. This union of Manas with Kama, or mind with desire, is called the lower mind, lower Manas, because it always involves the personal equation. Let the union exist, but the desire be entirely subordinate and impersonal, and the higher mind becomes free. The terms of the personal equation are united with or merged in the next higher. This at-one-ment of the lower man with the divine, or Christ at-one-ment with the Father. Okay, so all this is very, very mystical language. It's all mysticism. So, take that with what you will. But this whole idea of like Kama and Manas and all that, nothing to do with Hyperionism, but take with it what you will. This is Freemasonry here. So let the union exist, but the desire. Okay, so here we go. This at-one-ment of the lower man with the divine, or Christ at-one-ment with the Father. So long as the lower mind is held in bondage by desire, man cannot seek or discern the good or the true. He inquires, what is good for me? Freed from desire or the personal bias, he inquires after and seeks for that which is good or true in itself. When this condition is reached and habitually maintained, the square is said to be enclosed in the triangle. The whole lower nature is said to be at one with the divine or spiritual soul. So talking about, instead of looking for selfish things like what's good for me, talking about, well, what is just good in itself? What is intrinsically and good, intrinsically good, rather than what is good in relation to myself. Man's knowledge and power are no longer confined to or circumscribed by the lower plane or the physical body, but transcending these by regeneration, self-conquest, and becoming perfect in humanity, man attains divinity. In other words, he becomes Christos. This is the meaning aim and consummation of human evolution, and this philosophy defines the one only process by which it may be attained. The perfect man is Christ. The Christ is God. This is the birthright and destiny of every human soul. It was taught in all the greater mysteries of antiquity, but the exoteric creeds of Christendom, derived from the parables and allegories in which the doctrine was concealed from the ignorant and the profane, have accorded the supreme consummation to Jesus alone and made it obscure or impossible for all the rest of humanity. In place of this, the grandest doctrine ever revealed to man, theologians have set up salvation by faith in a man-made creed and the authority of the church to bind or loose on earth or in heaven. Law is annulled, justice dethroned, merit ignored, effort discouraged, and sectarianism, atheism, and materialism are the results. All real initiation is internal, not an external process. The outer ceremony is dead and useless, only so far as it symbolizes and illustrates and thereby makes clear the inward change. Their ceremony instructs, but it cannot transform. To transform means to regenerate, and this comes by trial, by effort, by self-conquest, by sorrow, disappointment, failure, and a daily renewal of the conflict. It is thus that man must work out his own salvation. The consummation of initiation is the perfect master, the Christos, for these are the same. They are the goal, the perfect consummation of human evolution. Now, this is great. You know, I love this. This is good. This is really good stuff. I'm in agreement with most of this here. Don't like the gendered language, of course, like man becoming the perfect man. You know, just put it in terms of humanity. I don't like that. But in essence, this is great. So let's look at what this is saying. I'm just flipping ahead here because there's some really good stuff here that. Wow, we might have to save some of this for next time because there's a lot more that we could break down. Because I'm seeing now because this is fun, where I like when some stuff starts to really correlate well. And so let's break this down. And then I think we'll have to save the rest for next time because there's some really, really good stuff in the next few pages. But so all right. I just lost my place. Okay, so this at one ment of the lower man with the divine, or Christ at one ment with the Father. So long as the lower mind is held in bondage by desire, man cannot seek or discern the good or the true. Okay, so I don't quite agree completely with all this stuff. Like, reality is both about the self and the other. You want to do good things that are for yourself and for others at the same time. Because once you understand reality, you understand that we're all in a feedback loop. So you can do great things for others and you can do great things with yourself, and there's no conflict. If you go into a lot of New Age philosophy too, they'll talk about this idea of service to self or service to other. And service to self is bad. It's terrible. You should make your life completely about service to other. That's wrong. Reality is a synthesis of both service to self and service to other. You want to be able to empower yourself and create yourself, and also empower others and help others as well. Because you realize we're all reflections of each other. You want to work on yourself, you want to do good things for yourself, and you want to help out others, and you want to help out others as well. This whole idea of like being totally selfless and just living a life for others, no, that's bullshit. It's about self and other. Self and other. Reality is full of a synthesis of apparent opposites that ultimately aren't opposites in the end, because in the end, self and other aren't different. They're just reflections. So, you have the one and the many, self and other, all these different ways of looking at existence. But let's move on to that. I want to talk about the good stuff here. So, okay. So, Man's knowledge and power are no longer confined to or circumscribed by the lower plane or the physical body, but transcending these by regeneration, self-conquest, and becoming perfect in humanity, man maintains divinity. So what this means is no longer confined or circumscribed by the lower plane. It means evolving your consciousness, going beyond the square, going beyond physical reality, going beyond, in Hyperionism, we talk about the avatar, monadic, and absolute perspective, going beyond the avatar perspective, going beyond that perspective that everyone else is trapped in, that, oh, I am just this single particular body living this single particular life, and, I work at Starbucks, and I, go party on the weekend, and that's what life is, that's what it all is, and I'm just, we're just born, we die, and YOLO, and all that, whatever. When you achieve a higher consciousness, you ascend, you break out of that physical understanding of reality. You understand what you are, you understand where you are, you understand why you are here. And that's why I always say, don't believe the bullshit that you can't know truth, that it is unattainable. Oh, humans can't know truth. Yes, you can. You can know truth. Don't be circumscribed by that prison set before, that has entrapped you by those who want to limit your power. Fuck that. You can know truth. You can know what you are, where you are, and why you're here. You absolutely can. It's right here. It's right around you. You just have to be able to realize it and recognize it. Just like, an animal doesn't recognize the reflection in the mirror. Then one day a human was like, oh, hey, that's me. Everything, the answers are all around you and all in you. Because ultimately, everything that's in you is all around you because it's a reflection of you. What is in is what is out. What is out is what is in. So anyway, when you are no longer confined or circumscribed by the lower plane or the physical body, you transcend. And this isn't, you're not going to be like, your spirit's not going to leave your body and you're going to float up into the sky and enter the clouds. No. Again, if you're wearing a VR headset and you believe, say you were wearing it since birth and you believe that VR world is the real world, you will transcend that world when you realize, oh, wait, I am beyond this. I am more than this. This is not what is real. You don't suddenly become like Neo or something. It is the realization that allows you to transcend through knowledge. So that's what it's like when you reach a new level of consciousness. It's that transcending the mundane perception and conception of what existence is. It's being able to remove those VR or at least understand what existence is. So you're no longer confined to or circumscribed by the lower plane or the physical body, but transcending these by regeneration and in parentheses, self-conquest. And self-conquest is really important. You must be able to, that's why in Hyperionism, it's all about becoming yourself, creating yourself, going beyond self-conquest. We aren't just about, and that's why we're the opposite of Buddhism, where Buddhism is a lot about self-diminishment or detachment, releasing, Nirvana is all about extinguishment. It's very much about, trying to escape the material world. We are gods, we are transformers, we are creators. We go beyond and we transform. We're not trying to run away from this world. We will take back this world and make it ours as it is. It's our birthright. It is what we created. We just must take it away and transform this world by our will. Now, and by doing this, becoming perfect humanity, man attains divinity. Because you are divine, you just have to realize it. Now we have a lot more to go by unlocking all our divine potential. You are divine right now. And when I say divine, I mean that you are the eternal essence of existence. You are that right now. And you become it when you realize it and when you know it. This is in the the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas that talks about this a lot. I have a whole playlist on that. Check out my playlist on the Gospel of Thomas. When you realize that, you are that now. Now we have a lot to do to unlock all of our potential and unlock all of our power, so to speak, a lot of work to do, but you are that now. But there's a long road ahead of us. So when you do that, man attains divinity. In other words, he becomes Christos. You become Christ. That's really what it means to be like Jesus. Be like Jesus doesn't mean, don't masturbate. Be like Jesus means become God. So this is the meaning, aim, and consummation of human evolution. This is the teleological nature of existence, is to attain self-knowledge of what you are. Because we are the one that became a multiplicity to experience ourselves in a multiplicity. But now we don't know what we're doing. But when we know what we're doing, that's when we can start having fun. That's when we can play this game, because when we can experience ourselves in that multiplicity while understanding that we're a unity. So we can get rid of all the hatred, sexism. Think about all the problems in life. Every day you go, to a job you hate, just struggling to survive. You have to put up with a bunch of assholes, bunch of racists, bunch of bigots, bunch of misogynists, people catcalling you, people, calling you, racial slurs or LGBTQ. I don't want to say them because what I mean. There's very hateful things people say to you. It's just, life, people are horrible. And imagine, what my point is, it's sort of like life is a struggle. But it's not a positive struggle in that way. It's just pure suffering. We want to we don't want that. Well, imagine if life wasn't about, dealing with all the hatred and all the bullshit, but instead we are putting all our focus and energy into having a better life and helping each other. Imagine if instead of going to a job you hate, you were pursuing a passion that you loved and having meaningful experiences. And instead of people, being violent and racist to each other, they were sharing their experiences with you and sharing their passions with you and helping you succeed, and you were helping them succeed, or collaborating on projects. Or you see where the focus completely changes from survival to thriving. That's where we need to go. That's where we can go. It's not an impossibility. It's not a utopia. Again, don't let anyone tell you that bullshit. If you think it's impossible, it will be impossible, because it all begins in the mind. If you think that it can't happen, it won't happen, because no one will ever make the moves to make it happen. It can easily happen as soon as we do it. And to be able to do it, we have to know that it's possible. And it is possible. So don't believe the bullshit fucking oligarchy, the capitalists, everyone who is in power who tells you that that's impossible and that you need to lick their boots and work for pennies to be able to survive, that you have to earn a living, earn the right to live. No, fuck that. Life is what we are. This is our world, and we will thrive. And so again, don't let anyone tell you that bullshit that it's impossible, because if you believe it's impossible, then it will be impossible. It is possible, and it is our will, and it will be done. So this is the consummation of human evolution. The perfect man is Christ, and Christ is God. So you see, we're using this as symbolism. Masonry doesn't look at Jesus Christ as being this real person that actually existed. It's all metaphor. It's all symbol. The symbol of Christ is like a Christ consciousness. The symbol of Christ is a person perfected. That is what Christ represents. He's not, it's not some guy that walked on water and did a magic trick and made one fish into many fishes. No, it's the symbol of attaining perfection. And we all have that ability. So the perfect man is Christ, and Christ is God. So this is the birthright and destiny of every human soul. See, now I like this. I really like when we get to parts in books like this where I can be totally on board and agree, because I don't like, I don't know. I feel like I just want to be straight with you guys. And hey, if some stuff is bullshit and dangerous, I'm going to tell you it's bullshit and dangerous. Because a lot of people get wrapped up in like occult, secret, mystical stuff, and it's not good. And if you're a Mason out there or something too, I'm not knocking you. That's fine. Everyone has a right to believe in what you want to believe. But I'm talking in terms of Hyperionism, and I always say this because I don't want people to get the wrong idea about Hyperionism and what we're doing here. Mystical systems can do that all day long. That's totally fine. If you're part of a mystical system or a faith or whatever, that's your thing. but in terms of what we're doing here. But I really like where we can get, like, this is some really good stuff here. So this is the birthright and destiny of every human soul and every human mind. Absolutely. It was taught in all the greater mysteries of antiquity. So basically, like, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, there were bits and pieces of this throughout these mysteries of antiquity. But the exoteric creeds of Christendom, exoteric sort of meaning public, the public version of Christianity, not the secret version of Christianity, which is an allegory for becoming God, not that secret version of Christianity, which we check out the other video in my playlist for that, but the public version of Christianity, the Christianity that you know today, that's taught in church about, the God that is very concerned about what you do with your penis and wants you to go to church and pray to Jesus. All that is the exoteric version of Christendom. So this, derived from the parables and allegories in which this doctrine was concealed from the ignorant and profane. So basically, they're saying that the public version of Christianity took the secrets of the secret version of Christianity and took them literally, like took the symbols literally, instead of seeing, the attainment of Christ as becoming God, thinking of it as an actual, God you should worship. They took it as literal. Now, I'm not a fan of saying concealed from the ignorant and profane, because that's another thing. Hyperionism is not a secret society. We're not like, oh, this information is not, no. You are ignorant and profane. We shall not be giving you this information. Hyperionism is a system of knowledge. We are all about giving information out. We're not trying to hold, oh no, this is the secret stuff. We want everyone to understand and know this information so that we can change this world. We want everyone to know this. We want to shout it from the rooftops. So, So the public version of Christianity took literally what was actually secret symbolism and accorded the supreme consummation to Jesus alone, saying that the birthright of all humanity to become God, to become divine, the Christian church took that and perverted it into saying, oh, only this person called Jesus has done so. So they're saying, really, it's the birthright of every human being to become a Christos, to become divine. But the Christian church has taken that and corrupted it and says that this only applies to Jesus, and made it obscure or impossible for all the rest of humanity. In place of this, the grandest doctrine ever revealed to man, theologians have set up salvation by faith in man-made creed and the authority of the church to bind or loose on earth or in heaven. So law is annulled, justice dethroned, merit ignored, effort discouraged, and sectarianism, atheism, and materialism are the results, saying basically the church has taken up the greatest idea that humanity can become divine and corrupted it and twisted it into having to have faith in a man-made God and the authority of the church. And because of this, law is destroyed, justice is gone, merit is gone, effort is discouraged. And from this, we have atheism and materialism. Atheism and materialism were dialectical results and responses to Christianity. Christianity birthed atheism and materialism. It was as the antithesis driven from its internal conflict. So all real initiation is internal, not an external process. You don't have to go get baptized. You don't have to go take communion. You don't have to go, hop on one knee and chant a certain mantra. It's internal. The outer ceremony is dead and useless, only so far as it symbolizes and illustrates and thereby makes clear the inward change. And this applies even to Masonry, because there's a lot of rituals in Masonry. And so what's basically being said here is all the rituals and ceremony doesn't mean anything except that it symbolizes and illustrates an inward change. And I think a really good example of this is sort of, any kind of ceremony, whether it's a birthday or a marriage. The ceremony itself, it's not magic. If you go to watch someone get married, it's not like, ooh, they're casting a spell with the magic ring or anything. No, it's a symbol that represents an inward change. You are making a promise to someone, you are making a commitment, or whatever. It doesn't have to. Marriage is just is a ritual that most everyone is familiar with. But pick any ritual you want. All these rituals are symbols for an inward change. So many people don't understand that, and they think that this magic ritual this is gonna happen. And this is even true in a lot of occult and magic systems. And people do these, like occult and magic rituals, and they think that, they're summoning these different demons or whatever. These are just symbols for inward processes. When you're calling in different archangels or whatever, these are different aspects of you and your psyche that you're bringing up. And, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, because that's not the topic of today, and I want to continue here. But you can see this is really important. The outer ceremony is dead and useless. And this is important because this is, Masonry is all about symbols and ceremony. And it's cool to see that, yeah. And I always love when I come across, things that are great and I agree with. The outer ceremony, it's dead and it's useless only so far as it symbolizes and illustrates and thereby makes clear the inward change. And it's great to have symbols. It's great to have rituals. That's awesome. Because, look at the joy that people have when they get married and you get to, get the dress and the ring or whatever. And hey, if you don't believe in marriage or you don't want a ceremony, that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. You can be against marriage if you want. I'm just using this totally as an example because it's a ritual that's the first one that I can think of, and most people are familiar with. You can think of it for birthdays too. All your friends coming around, giving presents, getting a cake, making a wish, blowing out candles, or New Year's Eve, celebrating, the change of a new year, making a New Year's resolution to become a better person. Rituals are great. They're fantastic. They make life fun. They make life worth living. It's exciting. Again, think of all the joy that people have on their, when they get married, and how cool that can be for some people. But you see, there's no magic going on. It's an outward example of the inwards. And that's the thing, is that all reality is an outward reflection of the inwards. Everything. When you go to sleep and dream, your dream world is an external, when you're in the dream world, manifestation of your mind. Well, same thing in this reality. Everything is a reflection of an inwards process. So anyway, the ceremony instructs, but it cannot transform. To transform means to regenerate, and this comes by trial, by effort, by self-conquest, by sorrow, disappointment, failure, and a daily removal of the conflict. It is thus that man must work out his own salvation. Love it. The consummation of initiation is the perfect master, the Christos, for these are the same. They are the goal, the perfect consummation of human evolution. And yeah, so this is fantastic, and I love this so much. So to transform yourself means to regenerate, a rebirthing process. And we talk about this in Hyperionism as the metaphorical suicide. Metaphorical, don't harm yourself or others, about destroying oneself metaphorically to be able to regenerate oneself. And this is hard work. This comes by trial, effort, self-conquest, sorrow, disappointment, failure, and a daily renewal of conflict. And this is how you work out your own salvation, not by anyone else. This is your own path of evolution. And I love this too, because it's so the opposite of all this bullshit new age stuff that's that people try to sell you on today, like the law of attraction. It's like, oh yeah, just have positive thoughts, just believe it, and everything will just come and flow naturally. You'll get rich, you'll have a great partner, just believe it, and it'll happen. It's so easy. They're trying to sell you something. They are trying to sell you something. Yes, having a goal in mind is powerful, and working towards that goal is powerful. But guess what? There's efforts, there's trials, there's self-conquest, there's sorrow, there's disappointment, there's failure, and also successes. Life is all about you can get what you can, make what you will. But it's not about just like, oh, I'm going to put a picture of a big house on my wall and look at it every day and have positive thoughts and believe that it's going to happen, and it's going to happen. You're living in a fantasy, and someone just wants to sell you something. You can achieve your dreams and you can achieve your goals. And it all starts in the mind. But you need will, you need desire, you need goals, and you need action. You have to have a strong will, a strong capacity to be able to make change and to be able to put in effort. You need to have desire, in that you have to want the thing, and you have a goal. You need to have a goal set up, or else you're not going to get anywhere because you have nowhere that you're going. And you need action. You need to put in the hard work. You need to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. You go join New Age. They have a lot of crystals to sell you. But if you really want to change your life, if you really want to transform yourself and transform the world, you can. You can, but it takes hard work and it takes effort. But that's okay. What a boring life it would be. It's like a video game that you just beat it instantly. No, half the fun of the game is in the struggle. When you really accomplish something, you feel great because it took that hard work. It took that effort. It took all that resolve, and you feel proud of yourself. Nothing wrong with pride. If pride is well placed, feel pride, feel proud of yourself because you did it. That was hard. So I think we're going to stop here, and because now we're getting to the idea of the master. What is a master? And so next we'll probably be talking about the idea of the master next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you see the importance of being able to become, and I don't like using the word God in Hyperionism, we use the absolute, but together we are all reality and we have the power. Don't try and escape. See, that's the thing, right? Don't try and escape from the world. Don't try and reach nirvana or extinguishment. Don't try and detach. Don't try and just think everything is going to come to you if you have positive vibes. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. Go do that. Whatever makes you happy, go do that. It's your life. But for us in Hyperionism, we want to become beyond ourselves. We want to achieve apotheosis. We want to transform this world. We want to create a new self, a new life, because look at the fucked up life that has happened. We don't want to just let this world be run by a bunch of barbarians and oligarchs and, just quite frankly, sick people. So you have that power within you. We all have that power within you. As it said in the book today, it's our human's divine birthright. So let's claim that birthright and make it ours. It's going to be hard work, but we got each other's backs and we can do it. And by our will, it will be done. So I hope you enjoyed that, my friends. I want to remind you that if you enjoy my work, if you ever feel like you learned something or gotten something from it, please consider supporting on Patreon. It helps out a lot, especially because right now I'm working on creating a book and I don't have as much time to make videos. So support on Patreon helps a lot right now. And if you are a supporter on Patreon, when my new book comes out, you'll be getting your name in the credits of the book. You'll also get access to our weekly secret live streams and hidden Discord server, The Citadel. The link will pop up right over here. And I also want to give a big shout out to Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Michael, Angela, Maria, Jordy, Top of the World, and Zach. Thank you all so much for your support, everyone here. I appreciate it very much.